What's going on, everybody? I am Phil. That is Tyler. We are here for another edition of the 5tool Productions video podcast. And today we're going to talk about a platform that we haven't spent a lot of time on, but I have a feeling that we might spend a lot more time on in the next couple of years based on the growth.
Based on the article that I just read,
right.
Literally, I'm thinking, maybe we need to shift our focus a little bit. So what we're talking about is Twitch.
Yeah, and maybe everybody needs to shift their focus a little bit. So tell me a little bit more about why, when you came in this morning, you were excited to talk about Twitch.
Yeah, so it was interesting when I was obviously following along some of the different headlines from the weekend and what was taking place. And one of the things that kind of came out was TwitchCon just wrapped up. So their big conference, their big user group, where they roll out different product features, they give you kind of the state of streaming and how things are going. And really what you're seeing is just the growth with Twitch is absolutely incredible and something that isn't really talked about at all right now. So to kind of put it in an idea right now, they get about, in Q3, they had about 2.5 billion
with a
hours, billion hours of live video consumed. You say, okay, that's great.
Put it in context, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
Put it in context. For Q3, for YouTube Live, not YouTube itself, but YouTube Live, the live streaming portion of it was really only about 100 or so million hours. So 100 or so million hours from YouTube in Q3. 2.5 billion hours on Twitch. So it's just showing the amount of time people are spending on Twitch on live video is absolutely insane and continues to grow. So when you look at the charts over the course of this past year, they had a good spike in January, a little bit of a lull in February, March, but then it just continued to grow, and right now it's still kind of jumping off the charts. So it's just the growth on it is kind of unparalleled when it comes to live video.
And one of the things I think that's interesting that it shows me, so admittedly I'm not as in the world of Twitch as I am with some of these other platforms. I haven't spent quite as much time on it. It's pretty niche and specific to
real quick,
topics,
with that in mind, let me ask you, when I say Twitch, what's the first thing you
gaming,
think of?
Right? Gaming comes to mind,
right?
right? And admittedly, as a consumer, I haven't spent a lot of time on it because that's not really my interest area. As a producer, we haven't really produced a lot of content that seems to hit the mark for necessarily what the audience is looking for there. We'll talk about how that might be shifting a little bit in a second. But what's really interesting to me and important to me, I think, is how these numbers show that there is an interest for good live content of a specific type, right? And I think that it speaks to engagement, which we can talk about more, and authenticity, right? Those two things really come through with the type of stuff that comes through with Twitch streams, where it's, you know, gaming is one part of it, but the other part that I'm more interested in from like how this applies to general marketers is the rest of it, the IRL, the in real life streams that you were mentioning.
The fact they call it IRL, and I was thinking, what's IRL? Is this some weird
That's
thing?
That's how you show your age.
Well, when I saw it, I was like, IRL, I was like, should I click on this in the office or no? Like, I was a little bit nervous, to be totally honest with you. But it was one of those things, so I actually had to do a search, like, what does IRL, in real life?
Oh, no.
And then I said, what does in real life actually mean? God. Yes, I'm old, we get it. But it was the talk shows, it's the people, the vloggers, but they're not vlogging, putting something together from an edited perspective. They're live streaming their entire day. So really when we go into kind of the engagement thing and how it differs from, say, YouTube or Facebook Live, and we'll talk, I know, I'm sure people will hear in one of our other podcasts talking about Facebook Live and Facebook video in particular, but one of the things that Twitch really does, and they rolled out a lot of new features, is just that engagement and the importance of engagement. So compare Twitch with Facebook Live. Facebook Live is all about the views, right? Their numbers, their numbers, it just seems so inflated with the number of views.
Well, they admitted the numbers were inflated recently, by the way, as well. But
yeah, so when you see the numbers jump up to 25,000 views, and then you see that they're all just 3-second views, you say, okay, how accurate is this? On Twitch, it's just the other side of things. You might see that the numbers for the number of views might not be as crazy high as you think it is, but the engagement is something that they really pay close attention to. The amount of time people are spending on that live stream. And they said, you know, a 5-minute video, a 5-minute live stream isn't going to cut it. 4 hours is really what they're kind of advocating for. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. There are people that are literally live streaming for 24 hours a day, with different gamers and different people sitting down and different almost talk show-like networks, which we'll get into with the in real life. But they also go with the amount of time they're spending on, the amount of comments people are saying. It's not just, giving a wave, like you see that on Facebook, and say, "Oh, hi Tyler, I see you're live." We see that all the time. Or, "Hey, I love this place. This is great." They're actually saying, "Nope, you're on it for an hour to 4 hours." People are commenting up to like 20 times, whether it's an emoji, and of course they're kids, they're quick on their phone, they're younger, so they're commenting a lot more. So the engagement piece is something that they're really focusing on, and when it came to the conference, all the tools they were releasing were basically all pointed towards that.
Right.
How can we help creators engage with their audience even more?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's a really, obviously should be an important focal point of everything that people do. It isn't always that way though. A lot of times when you're creating video for corporate, for brands, for marketing purposes, you're thinking more about how does this serve my needs, and obviously that gets you in trouble, right? And we try to talk more about like the whole point of content marketing is supposed to be providing value.
Yep.
Obviously they found an area here where they're providing value to the point where people want to stick around and, like you said, comment 20 times and hang around and watch these videos for hours on end. It really almost feels like the way the internet is supposed to be, right? Like it feels like this pure arm of the internet where people are just like, when you think back to the early days of the internet when you were first getting on and it was like chat rooms and you know,
chat rooms and banner ads next to it.
Yeah,
right?
and it was like kind of like the Wild West, right?
Yeah,
like
it definitely was.
And it almost feels
I always
like,
went to the Reebok chat room. It was just strange.
The Reebok chat room.
The Reebok chat room. I always ended up in there for some reason because they were talking sports all the time.
Well,
that's what happened when I was 13. I remember like I was in the Reebok chat room.
And if you cared about video games, you know, then you would have been on Twitch if it existed when you were 13.
Exactly.
And it's just like, it feels like this kind of throwback that's really pure, which is almost why, like, maybe that's why marketers haven't been able to, like, crack it too much yet, because it's like, it's this real, authentic, pure thing, and people can see through it, just like Reddit, right? People see through
it. There's a reason why Reddit has been so successful on its own, because they're basically saying, no, the community is going to push you out because we see right through you trying to pitch something down my throat.
Right.
We just want to have a show. We want to engage with other users. We want to be here and have our party and not have someone try to sell us something while we're doing it.
But there are people who are hosting, and so okay, so it seems like the area of opportunity more is for like maybe sponsored shows that still do that, because there are people who are successfully hosting like talk shows with guests.
Well, so you mentioned the IRL, the in real life thing. That, you know, like you said, there are kind of talk shows that are coming about. Well, one of the guys is Hunter Pence, who we've talked about before from his set design, actually. We've looked at Hunter Pence, in case you didn't know, he plays left field for the San Francisco Giants. And great player, but he was also a gamer. His wife and him actually created a show. I forget the name of the show itself, but created a show where they game, they talk with other gamers, they have interviews, they go live on stage sometimes from different events, and they have just a blast, but they communicate and are always talking with their audience. So shows like that are starting to come about. Washington Post, they've recently rolled out their own kind of show. I haven't really watched it and seen what it is. Gary Vee, the person that so many people turn to when it comes for the latest and greatest with marketing. He created his own studio in-house that they'll stream some things. Sometimes they'll play, sometimes they just sit down and talk for an hour, 2 hours at a time. But they're using and leveraging that platform more than anything to get seen, get their faces out there and become kind of well known. I mean, I don't think you can go on there and really talk politics for 5 hours. I think people will see right through that and you won't get that type of engagement. But if you make it fun, maybe have politicians playing games, maybe, who knows, that might work. But those channels, you're starting to see a large amount of growth. I think in Q3 the number was 1.2 billion hours streamed of the in real life style channels. So much so that one of their big announcements is that they're going to be breaking the in real life down into kind of the Ask Me Anything channels, as well as the talk show channels and things like that. So they're going to be segregating even more, which is great. And is there more opportunity for folks to kind of jump on board there too? Right,
and you mentioned Gary Vee, and like we've talked before about like don't waste opportunities to create content and things like that. And even if it's not specifically about like you know, your brand, you know, you put the big figures on your brand who do have a following and are popular and try to put them in front of a slightly different audience, maybe there is a chance for them to, you know, gain a little bit of traction there as well.
One of the things that's really strange and kind of funny is that we've seen people jump from mainstream media to the platforms on their own, whether it's Twitch, whether it's Facebook. A girl that I was a former newscaster with up in Maine, she moved to another station. She left that other station as well, and she is now a full-time gamer on Twitch. It's wild, and she does it from her living room. She does like Dance Dance Revolution or whatever it is all the time, and that's what she does. But
You really hate video games.
she was telling I just so you know, Twitch reminds me of when I was like 12 years old, sitting at my friend Mark's house, who would always play GoldenEye. And I would just sit there for hours on end watching him play. So that's like my mind. I just felt like flashbacks.
I liked Perfect Dark, but you don't care. You
I don't
play
even know
video
what
games.
Perfect Dark
It's all right.
is.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So no, I think what's just my final kind of thought on it. When Instagram announced IGTV, people like went nuts, right? It was
Oh my
like,
gosh, it went crazy.
So they basically rolled out this channel where it's like a brand new channel. Nobody. There's
No one's on it yet.
There's no proof.
No
Right?
one's using it.
There's
It's
no
just
audience. There's no
the
proof of
shiny new
engagement yet,
ball,
and
yeah.
everyone went nuts for it. Whereas already there's this audience. There's this channel with this built-in huge audience.
An impressionable audience,
Right.
mind you, right?
And we're not paying nearly the attention to it that we should. So at the very least, like, pay attention to what people like the Washington Post and Gary Vee do, even if you don't care about what Fortnite streamers
And
do,
even,
right?
I believe, Cheddar, who we've talked about
Yep.
on the podcast before, they're also jumping on it too. So it's interesting. They know who their audience is. And it goes back to knowing your audience. I
Maybe
mean,
your audience isn't there.
Maybe your
right?
audience
Yeah.
isn't there. And one of the things kind of with that in mind, it's you don't necessarily have to go out and say, I'm going to start a show. What am I going to do? How am I going to actually start the show and make it interesting? You can work with some of the folks that are there too. I mean, one of the big talks that they were giving is all about the influencers that are KFC, Taco Bell, were some of the biggest people. I mean, of course, fast food, Taco Bell, a 15-year-old kid, of course, those are the people you want to go after. So it all makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you brought this up. Keep an eye on Twitch. We will. And
You might even see us on Twitch. I might put a
maybe.
headset on. and
we can
start
get Tyler
gaming.
playing some Fortnite. What do you think?
I've never played
Rocket
Fortnite
League?
before. Sure. You bring it in here, I will play right now.
I'm Phil. That's Tyler. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
So long.